FrostBlades of Katabasis. This is update 6 on the Slayer. No longer day 6. That has been a while ago since day 6 occurred. But yes, update 6 for the Slayer. So if you want to check out the timecode in the description box below, that is okay with me. Check out the like button while you're down there as well. I would appreciate it. But otherwise, let's talk a little bit about the build. This is originally a creation, of course, by Rutu and Tai Killer. And it has been the smoothest melee league start I have ever had, period. Now, clearly, we're no longer in a league start kind of scenario, but honestly, now that we are in the quote-unquote end game of the build, it is probably also one of the best, if not the actual best, melee build I've ever played. I like this build much, much more than Lightning Strike, because the build feels incredible to play. It has incredible range, it has incredible clear, it has wonderful single target, good tank, good sustain, and can pretty much run every single mod except for one mana bricking mod without actually that much trouble once you get enough currency into it. It is an incredible well-rounded beast, so to speak, as the kids say, and can be optimized further for whatever content you're trying to do, may that be simulacrums, sanctums, or in my case, as you can see, we're doing some testing on Val Temple, which means we don't know what mods we're going to get, and we don't want to break our investment in every map, so we have to be able to do every single mod. I'm going to be optimizing this build and refining it a little bit more in the future to be able to handle every single map mod, which can be done fairly easily with some recrafting. But that brings me to the point of why I will probably not update this channel with this build much more often in the future. Every update or every upgrade is quite painful, I'm afraid. At this point in the game, we're starting to have to look at frenzy shields, frenzy rings, frenzy corruptions, because we are a charge stacker, right? A frenzy charge stacker to be specific, which enables the endurance stacking too, and it's just very, very expensive. I was kind of hoping that my ritual farming would grant me a natural drop, and it did drop some really, really good stacking gear, but for stat stacking, not so much for the charge stacking. Unfortunately, though, even though I'm having fun farming and experimenting, trying to buy a base, just the base of an item that's like 100 to 200 divines makes me feel kind of infuriated. I don't think that's fun, or I don't think that's wise. You can definitely do it if you're lucky, or if you happen to just have the currency laying around because you don't spend it like I do constantly. But otherwise, yeah, we have gotten to the point where every upgrade just requires a tremendous amount of investment to the point where I don't think it's cost effective or fun anymore. So we might be looking at some future new builds as well. I've got some plans in mind, so keep an eye out. I am currently still developing the Exile farming strat as well as this Val Temple strat on top of that, which is of course what ultimately spawned the Exile strat. But I have had some ideas on how to rehabilitate this current Val Temple. But that's a plan for a future video. Behold my Slayer, level 97. If you want to import me on POB or check me out on POB Ninja under the streamer section, you can do so. But yes, it's nice to know that you can actually league start melee again and not feel like you are behind on every other spellcaster. It feels so good to be able to return to melee after having to be forced to stop playing melee, or feeling like I was forced to stop playing melee if I wanted to keep up with everybody, right? And this build, also originally made by Rutu, has been a great part in that, and this melee buffing league was an absolute phenomenal success when it came down to bringing melee back to the forefront. Enough yapping though, let's talk a little bit about the gear. We still have our wonderful Imperial Claw, pretty much perfect except for the tier 2 crit multi. I still have to redo some divining and getting a +6 increased attack speed, but honestly, I'm happy with as is. We still have a heat shiver. I just found a corruption for some increased maximum life. I would also maybe consider a power charge, preferably both. But yes, life is nice because I already do enough damage and dying is always frustrating. On top of that, we have the shield. As you can see, I've moved the spell suppress to the shield as opposed to the originally planned chest, because it was a little cheaper. We hit the melee gem with an exalt. We still have some good life, some avoid elemental ailments, and fist damage reduction. Ultimately, I want to recraft this on a frenzy shield, but then start with an intelligence slam. Because right now I'm using my intelligence on a amethyst ring, and this intelligence should be on the shield. And here we should have an unveil for some particular resistances, so we don't have to use Chaos Resist on our chest. But yes, the rings are really nice though. Chaos Res, some craft, some intellect. I hit a tier 2 rarity with the slam, so I'm happy with that. Other than that, good life, some flat. I can't really complain. The chest was also recrafted. As you can see, we have some high prefixes, essence, life, armor, evasion, flat, and I rolled into a tier 2 increased armor. So we still have room to improve that further as well, because I want to hit like 3k armor, 3k evasion if I can help it. Other than that, we have some chaos res, fractured. This should be spell suppressed, but those chests were ridiculously expensive. I did roll into some nice fist damage reduction, so I can't complain. And also a respectable resistance, although I would have preferred maybe a craft there. But I'm not bold or brave enough to try to annul that, even with an Eldritch Annul, until I have maybe another endgame craft in mind. We're still using the taming as well. I did, however, quality the rings. Before I forget, resistance modifier, some elemental damage modifier right here, and of course also on the actual amulet, a crit mod, because the amulet is done. As you can see, tier 1 life, cold skill gems, we have essence, flat cold damage, crit multi, fire and chaos resistance, unveil, and then a craft, which is very, very comfy. This particular necklace is pretty much done. I'm very excited with it. I could divine it, but honestly, I don't think I care too much. We do still have the Admiral Arrogance, the known bugged gloves at this point, saving us exactly 1 skill point on the Atlas tree right now. But yes, I could not find the Frenzy charge. The cheapest I found, a Frenzy charge, was 75 divines. And I don't have 75 divines right now because I just recrafted my chest. So that was a bit of a problem. But yes, as you can see, we do want to get an implicit here. Maybe I will just settle for like some melee crit. That would be very, very comfy. But we'll see how that goes. We also have the Arn's Anguish still. I want to get like a better implicit on here. It is corrupted, but that's just the base corruption. Other than that, though, I want to get, hopefully, maybe like an elemental resist corrupt. Or maybe something better that is not just stun and block recovery. It feels so unfortunate to have that on the implicit. So we might look into that as well. I still have the Relicash Impatience. Of course, this is a key part of the build. No implicits, way too expensive. I have to define this, but I am currently chaos capped and resistance capped, so I don't feel like the need to actually divine that, but I do have to do so in the future at some point. Other than that, we also fixed some of our flasks up. We have some nice, some high rolls right here, like for example, reduced charges, increased movement speed, and a Quicksilver can go a long way. I don't like using the tincture, because like I said, I run Val Temples right now, and tinctures do mana drain, and if you have a mana bricking mod, you're going to have to use a mana flask. So I wouldn't even have space for a tincture. That would even brick my map even harder. So I don't use tincture. If I was doing bosses, I would drop either my Quicksilver or my Granite Flask, depending on the boss I was doing, for the tincture to get some more damage out of that, which would have been very, very lovely. But that is it for the gear. In terms of like the gems, we have an Enhance on a Blood Rage. We also have Enduring Cry here to occasionally help with the brutality charges, of course. In the helm, we have Assassin's Mark, Mark on Hit. We also have Herald of Ice and Precision right now. On the shield, we have Steel Skin with Automation, with a more duration support, just to help Steel Skin get some more value. We have faster attacks with Whirling Blades for movement, together with a life tap and Frostblade, so we never have to worry about running out of mana while running through a map on a mana bricked map, which is very frustrating. We also have an Enlightened support that I had leveled up. I've connected it to summon Skitterbots, Bone Chill, and Awakened Unbound. The Enlightened is not needed. It's just there because I had a gem slot open and I was leveling it. In terms of the 6-link, we have updated here some stuff as well. We have the FrostBlade 21, Multi-Strike 2020. I'm currently leveling gems to see if I can get a 2120. Speaking of getting a 2120, Ice Bite is now maxed. We also have an Inspiration 2120, an Awakened added cold damage is getting nearly to level 5. And we also have an Awakened elemental damage with attack support, which I will continue to use even if I had Frenzy charges, because of that final line right there. From supported skills cannot be reflected, and I do content that sometimes can randomize you into reflect damage maps, which is very, very painful if you don't have reflect immunity. Other than that, as well, for those who are typically always asking, we also have Lunaris right now, and I'm using Aberrath because I was using some Burning Ground stuff, but otherwise I typically use Tukohama if I'm not enduring some Burning Ground shenanigans. But I'm farming Red Altars, so yes, Soul of Lunaris, Aberrath. So let us talk about the passive tree. Now remember, we are level 97, so we're missing 3 points, which will ultimately be turned into jewel sockets, since we went with an early second cluster. But until then, We have Headsman as well as Brutal Fervor and Masterful Form on our ascendancies, and in our passive tree, you can indeed see not one but two cluster jewel setups. A little early, but I just had it laying around, so when in Rome, right? We do have a nice timeless jewel. I'm using 15618. I am planning to switch that for very good reasons, but until then, we are using the regen node right here, life as well as double damage. Very good. Picking up Art of the Gladiators is nice and comfy. On our Golem's Blood, we have some crit reduction. The reason why I want to replace this gem is because I don't want crit reduction on my nodes or from the jewel. I want it on my shield, because I do want to make sure that I have some crit reduction as a result of the randomized mod farming that I do on my Val Temple setup, right? That's a future video, but yes, it does end up giving you some hyper-juiced crit multi and crit chance on the enemy, so having some crit reduction is very, very nice. Having that said, though, what's also very nice is the Intimidate we get on Savagery. That's a very lovely boost in power as well for basically free. Down here, though, we are still using Charge Duration, and this is because an Endurance charge on a base level lasts about 10 seconds, right? So if you want to switch this Mastery out for the damage one, 3% increased damage per Endurance charge, Frenzy charge, or Power charge, you would need 10 seconds right here if you want to keep up your Brutality charges. Now, I'm currently at 14, which is fine, but if I want to switch out that Mastery, I do need to get a perfect Implicit, and I don't feel like wasting that much currency on a chest that is not my final endgame chest. I have to recraft the chest again with Spell Suppress, but all in that in good time. So that's why I'm still using the Charge Duration, in case you were wondering. Moving forward, we have Cut the Multi to fit in the cluster, but yeah, we are still using Dismembering, Tribal Fury with the strike range. Our cluster is nice, Drive to Destruction in the back, but Feat the Fury and Martial Prowess in the front with some elemental res. We have 2 gem slots as a result. We're still using some like early ones we had for some resistances. This is a nice one, triple damage mod and a resist. And remember, you can flip those resistances with Harvest, right? If you need to, keep that in mind. And then this one has to be replaced. Elemental res with some attack speed and crit multi is nice, but that burning damage is a waste. And I kind of want to make sure that I have enough resistances, so I want to look forward to a Belt Corruption first, and then I will replace this one with a more useful jewel. Speaking of jewels, the reason why we can fit the cluster is because we cut out the jewel sockets right here and down here. But yes, I want to place my cold or lighten the cold, or I forgot the name of the unique jewel that gives you bonus damage for cold, light of the something. That's going to probably be going into this one, and here we have just another value gem, probably, or our Watcher's Eye, if we can finally find an affordable one. That's my plan right now. We will also be able to replace the Frenzy Charge Duration minor node with another Dexterity node for a minor optimization. For those who are wondering about why I have a life and mana on hit node here, it's because I don't like my mana bricked maps. Because remember, I'm doing these randomized mods on maps through my current strat, right? But if you don't do that and you roll mods that you can do without bricking your mana, you don't need this. You can pick up another mastery like a Leech here per equipped Claw, which is really nice. Or maybe you pick up some crit multi for unique creatures, which is very, very good. Definitely should do that. Or maybe you just pick up the Jewel Socket, which is probably the most valuable thing you can pick up. Speaking of value, though, we do pick up some life ourselves with life on kill. We do have some Revenge of the Hunted with an evasion buff here with the mastery. We also have Forces of Nature giving way to the inverse mastery, which is very, very powerful. Gives you very large shocks and chills and such against those who have very high resistances otherwise. We do pick up the charges as expected, as well as Herbalism, One with Nature, and Quickstep. We are still using Entrench as a result of needing to cap our spell suppress. Once we have our recrafted chest, we get these 2 points back most likely, and then I can pick up more masteries or more gem sockets, which would be really, really powerful while remaining spell capped, which is very good. We also pick up Thick Skin because the Wheel of Thick Skin plus our Ancestral Vision plus our shield gives us complete and utter elemental ailment immunity, which is nice. I also still have Fang of Frost with the percentage increased damage taken. I forgot to switch this back in my previous video. Somebody reminded me of that. Very thankful for that. But yes, you want to get the enemies permanently take 5% increased damage for each second they have been frozen. Lovely single target buff. And in terms of our cluster right here, it's also another elemental res cluster with Feat the Fury, Fuel the Fight, and Martial Prowess. We pick up all the nodes. because that also gives our mana leech some benefits, our life leech, and of course more attack speed and attack damage. And then we have another nice Viridian jewel right here. As you can see, this is my resistance jewel. And once I get my new chest or my new corruption on the belt, I might be able to switch this. Or maybe I'll keep it and switch the other ones. I'm not sure how the numbers are going to work out. But it is not a bad one to have. The reduced effect of curses with the flask gives me very close to immunity to curses, which is also something that I don't have to worry about, which is very comfortable. Because temp change is annoying to have on you. So yeah, that's kind of the plan right now. We are going to spend 2 points in here first and foremost as we level to 99 to get that unique jewel in. And then we have one over here for the Watcher's Eye. If I do end up picking up a Watcher's Eye before that, I might start cutting masteries like the Evasion Mastery right here. Or maybe I'll start highly investing in the Recraft so I can get these 2 points back, because that would also fix it. We have options, is my point. We have options. Speaking of options, I do want to maybe consider picking up Assured Strike or maybe Revelry as well. Not because you have to, because the Mana Mastery might help me figure out a fix for my mana bricked maps, while also giving me another notable that allows me to get more value from my Timeless Bride jewel, which is very good. In this case, it has to be regen, but imagine if this was double damage or crit multi or crit chance. That would be very valuable for 2 points, right? As well as more strength, which is technically more life, so that's good. Or the Assured Strike giving us more range of clear, which is already insane, but more importantly, monsters cannot block your attacks is a very powerful thing. So we might contemplate that as well, which is very, very good. Having that said, though, it is a work in progress, so keep an eye out. I don't expect there to be like daily or bi-daily updates on this specific build unless I get very, very lucky. So fingers crossed, you might just hit. And that is pretty much it for it now. So thank you so much for hanging out. Hopefully your journey from League start till now has been a good one as well. Mine has been interesting and very fun, especially with this build. So once again, a shout out to Rue for making a phenomenal melee build, for re-inspiring an ex-melee gamer to go back to melee. It's been fun. I hope it continues to be fun. And I will catch you guys next time. Thank you so much. Have a good night. I'm out.